Hi, everyone, and welcome to TARDIScuss episode number 8. And we are discussing Witchfinders tonight, and we're going to talk about a few things we may have missed last week and dive into the TARDIS with some great things that we have on our mind. We've got a lot to talk about. Our question of the week is going to be a fun one. I think you'll like it. What planet that exists in the Doctor Who universe would you like to take a vacation to in honor of JPL and NASA landing the latest rover on Mars? We're going to use that as our question. I'm Emily, and I am drinking a throwback. I'm drinking some clearly Canadian uh, country raspberry. So that's my beverage of choice for this evening. Laura and Lorena are going to think on their planet for vacation. Just remember to follow us on all the socials, Instagram and YouTube and Twitter with the hashtag TARDIScuss. While you think about that, my planet is I'm going with Beryllium, where River Song and the Doctor had their dinner, and where the Singing Towers are. So that's my vacation planet. Laura, go ahead. What is your vacation planet?
Hello, guys. So like she said, my name's Laura. Tonight I am drinking a dark and stormy. The weather's been awful here in Maryland, so I felt like that was pretty good. My vacation planet, this is such an easy one for me, is the library without the Vashtu Narada. I just said that wrong, but without the flesh-eating people that parasite things that live there, because that's awful, and I don't want to go out that way. But a planet that's literally a library and it has a gift shop that's like paradise for me. So I'm there for it. What about you, Lorena?
Hey guys, I'm Lorena, as Laura says, and I'm drinking beer as always, except the one week I drank tea. And mine, the planet I would go to is Fellspoon, because why not? It's Fellspoon. Did you know the mountains there, they sway in the wind? Can you imagine mountains swaying in the wind?
Fantastic. And we were talking about all the things that could go wrong with Mars, given the Doctor Who canon, that we're like, nope, Mars just not for us. Waters on Mars, ice warriors, all the things. Mars not for us. So
Elon Musk is moving there.
Elon Musk, hard pass. Hard pass.
No,
thanks for the Tesla though, but hard pass.
Yeah.
You go there, we'll leave the Teslas here for us. So we have not technically things episode related that we missed last week, but Lorena, what did you have from last week?
So I got a package, and it came with all his bubble wrap, and I haven't been able to pop any of it because I don't want to die. So I wanted to point that out, that Kerblam has traumatized me and ruined one of the basic joys in life.
That is sad. My package that I ranted about that had took forever did finally arrive on Wednesday, after several calls. Once we ended our podcast, I called the shipping company and yelled at them again. And then I called again Wednesday morning and yelled at them again. And my employees finally got their Thanksgiving gift cards. So to Amazon, which is what they were for. So that they all finally arrived safe and sound. So Kerblam, Amazon, whatever we will become in our consumerism. And Lorena, did you have anything else back to Brady's comments from last week?
Yeah, I had been thinking on it a little more, and this recent episode, I was like, we didn't go in the TARDIS at all. So Brady had complained that for how much effort we put into finding the TARDIS again, we didn't actually get to check it out very much. So that was kind of something I thought about again. And I feel like I couldn't even find the swimming pool because I don't really know what the interior of the TARDIS actually looks like. And it used to be, you know, sort of this circular, hexagon-y, you know, cylindrical thing. And we had a feeling of the interior as well as the exterior. And we knew it went on further. But now I feel like it's just like a big Himalayan salt, you know, extravaganza around the console and nothing else. Like, it's like almost like there isn't a set behind it. It's just like they're in the soundstage and have like canvas on the ground in the background or something. I don't know. Very 60s throwback there. But it was just, I want to see more. I want to be in it more. I know there's a lot of people, so maybe that's the difficulty. But I've been in a TARDIS set before and it's giant. So like there isn't really a reason to not explore it a little more. We usually get an episode that spends, I don't know, like at least 10 minutes in the TARDIS or the whole, you know, the entire episode. Like I just feel like we haven't had a good psychological weird thing in the TARDIS this season and haven't really gotten to explore that. So maybe the budget's great and that's why, but I like a low budget TARDIS set scene. So that's a little sad. And then the other thing I've been noticing is what I haven't been noticing, which is the music. And I know, you know, we all agree that Murray Gold, you know, just licking a stamp, mailing it in at the end of his little reign there. But I am like missing Murray Gold. I'm missing themes. He was really good at doing like a theme for each Doctor. And he utilized that throughout the music for the whole season. And then pretty much all the companions, except like the lesser, like I don't think Jack Harkness has a theme from Doctor Who. He has one for Torchwood. But like the main companions all had their own theme. And then we had these just like great pieces of music, Doomsday, the Bow song, Madame du Pompadour, and they're just like really, you know, like haunting, just great music. And we haven't had like this. To me, I can like listen to Murray Gold's music when I'm on a walk and feel like really, you know, either very like someone is like grabbing my heart out, like I'm a werewolf and they're a vampire, or like it's just fast paced and energetic. So it's either like soul wrenching or like I'm going to go conquer the world. And the music this season, I couldn't hum anything for you, like other than the opening song, which isn't that different than the song from 1963. Yeah, I just I'm not connecting with the music. I don't know. I assume it's a directional choice and not the composer himself, but I don't like it, whatever it is. So that's my piece.
Okay. Laura, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Not really. I do agree that I haven't noticed the music at all. I was thinking while Lorena was talking about if I've noticed the music kind of picking up during the action sequences this season, and I haven't. Not the way that I did during like with Matt Smith and like the Pandorica and that whole kind of storyline that was happening. You just noticed it so much, and it really made a lot of the scenes kind of pop and come alive and made it more enjoyable. And I haven't gotten it this season. So that doesn't mean that I haven't enjoyed the show just as much. I just, and I don't know if we had outstanding music that you would notice, if it would take away from this season at all. So I don't know. That's a good question and a good statement. And my final thought on that is, I don't know.
Okay. No worries. No worries. We have a couple of non-episode-y, non-plot stuff things that we discovered this week. We, not being in the UK, are often not privy to certain chat show things. We get what we can on BBC America. But one thing we don't get is the comedian Michael McIntyre and his shows. And something that popped up on my YouTube is um, something he does called Send to All. And we discovered he did something to um, our Bradley Walsh, who plays Graham. And we weren't aware of Bradley Walsh's many talents. Um, I'll pop the link into the YouTube comments, but he Michael McIntyre plays this game where he takes on his chat show, he takes an audience member's phone and will send a goofy text message to everybody in the phone contacts. But during a certain show that he does once or twice a year to a celebrity, he will send a goofy text message to in the celebrity's phone. And he did this most recently to Bradley Walsh. And as we discovered, he was on Law and Order UK. He's also the host of a quiz show called The Chase. It looks like maybe a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire sort of thing. But he also has a fabulous singing voice. Laura, do you want to elaborate on the singing voice thing while I pop this into the YouTube comments?
Yes, let me find this on my phone here because you guys have to look it up. It was amazing. So Bradley Walsh has 2 albums out, one in 2016 and the other in 2017. And the 2016 album is called Chasing Dreams, and 2017 is When You're Smiling. And oh my damn, he has a phenomenal singing voice. I don't know if you guys got the chance to listen to him. The best thing that I can kind of compare him to would kind of like that Frank Sinatra feel. And I love listening to that kind of music when it's just my son and I at home. We listen to music pretty much all day long. Sometimes we listen to kids' songs, and sometimes we listen to mom's rap songs because he doesn't know bad words yet. So I'm trying to teach him. And he loves anything with a beat, and he's dancing now, which is super cute. But anyways, so Bradley Walsh's music is phenomenal, and you have to listen to him. I think was it the Send to All that we found out that he sold more on his debut album than Zayn Malik from One Direction? Was that a thing that we heard?
Yes, it was. It was.
See, that to me is insane, because it's like you would never know here in America that this man is a singer. And it's like, that always blows my mind when I think about how famous people are like in other places, because I'm American, so I automatically assume that the world revolves around me.
Right. So the text that Michael McIntyre sent had something to do with a crazy Doctor Who type dream. And I'm thinking, I use my phone both. I used to have 2 phones, a work phone and a personal phone. And so I have like work colleagues and then my personal colleagues. And who would you hate to receive a crazy text about a dream? Like, I mean, I text you guys my dreams, and the other morning I know it was a Doctor Who dream because I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, I just had the craziest dream. But who would you hate to get to receive a text like that from? Can you imagine? Like, who would you be mortified by?
I would be mortified to receive a text like that, and also to send a text like that to my son's urologist. He's a really nice guy, and he gave us his personal cell phone number when my son's surgery went awful and we had a lot of complications. So I would be horrified. if that happened. I would be like, I'm sorry, Jack, we're going to have to move to a different state now because we need to find a new urologist for you. It's time to go.
Thankfully, I don't have that state moving situation. But yeah, I use my work phone as my phone because I work from home. And that would be pretty disastrous overall. Like, I think some people would be like, "Oh, that's funny," but some people would not. And thankfully, most of the work numbers are to a landline, so it just wouldn't work. But yeah, no, that would be terrible. I have too many upper level management people in my phone for that to be a good thing.
Same. Like, I have owners of the company I work for, and it would be like I had a dream that I was rubbing sunscreen on you, and I'm like, HR violation right there. Just, oh no. I just can't imagine. And I mean, luckily, I literally fell into the rabbit hole with Michael McIntyre's Send to All. He does one with Jerry Halliwell, James Corden, and a bunch of other UK people that I have no idea who they were. I didn't care. I wanted to see the result of it. And I love seeing how people save other people in their phone. One of my favorites was Bradley has somebody in his phone called Matt Upyard, who is just Matt who lives at the end of his garden. And it just made all of us just crack up laughing. Anyway, I put the link in the YouTube comments, so really watch it. It'll make you laugh, and it's worth a watch.
Matt Upyard was a stellar person. He really wanted to help Bradley out.
He was so
I really liked that. Yeah, no, he didn't live at the end of his garden. That's what McIntyre thought. He was like, he worked at the yard doing car painting or car wrapping. That was what he did.
But, and crystals.
Yes, well,
yes,
we learned that later.
And healing crystals. What, like, where do you get to a point in your life where you're like, I'm going to do healing crystals and wrap vehicles too? Like,
I know. That's because you're designing the TARDIS.
Right.
You're the new TARDIS designer. So you're like, Himalayan crystals. And we need to wrap the outside so it looks smaller.
I love it.
If you're ever worried that you have totally mortified yourself in front of somebody, take a moment to watch a Send to All, and then you'll be like, nope, my life is fine. I have not done anything to mortify yourself, because from a dentist to your child's school headmaster, you're fine. You're fine. They had whoever Ed Balls is, who ran for a politician in the UK. He played along. It was fantastic. Find the Send to Alls. They're great. Enough about that. Let's get into the TARDIS and discuss the Witchfinders. The episode recap. The Witchfinders, written by Joy Wilkinson, directed by Sally Aprahamian. The Doctor, Ryan, Graham, and Yaz arrive in 17th century Lancashire and become embroiled in a witch trial run by the local landowner as fear stalks the land. The arrival of King James I only serves to intensify the witch hunt. But is there something even more dangerous at work? Can the Doctor and friends keep the people of Bilehurst Crag safe from the forces that are massing the land? We've got lots to talk about. Obviously, as Americans, the witch trials we are most known for and familiar with are the Salem witch trials that were taking place probably about 20 years after that, the 1620s. So, Lorena, let's dive in. What did you think of the episode?
I loved it. I've given it like a 9.5 out of 10 TARDI. And I initially was like 10 out of 10. But I think that I want to save my 10. you know, for the best of the best. But I love this episode. Like, for me, I felt there was a lot of rewatchability. I think the first episode this season was like, I really want to watch this again as soon as I finished it. Like, in the other ones, I'm like, I want to sit with this, you know? So I just had immediate like desire to rewatch it. And I hate stuff set in the 1600s. I don't like the Robin Hood episode they did with Capaldi and Clara. I hated, like, ugh. And I hate anything that's like that era if it's not a fantasy piece. So like if it's not a Game of Thrones or like Lord of the Rings or whatever. Like if you don't have a dragon, I'm not coming. Like I'm not showing up. So it was impressive for me to like this episode based on its setting. I'm not a big witch burning person. So I did enjoy that they dunked them. It made me think of Monty Python. But what really sold it for me was Alan Cumming, and I had no idea he was in this. And then he just like appears on screen, and he's so just delightfully ridiculous. And I couldn't stop loving him all episode. I saw him as Master of Ceremony and Cabaret on Broadway here. I'm in New York. And I just like couldn't like in my mind, like King James was that. So it was just like this really just ridiculous thing. I kept thinking of like Bruno from Dancing with the Stars, and I was just in love with Alan Cumming in this episode. I thought he did so stellar and like brought this ridiculous King Jamesness to the forefront, but in a like he really believed his character, you know, like it was just like really like genuinely played. And then I really enjoyed the plot. It kept me guessing. Like I thought the mud people were going to be good. And then, you know, clearly like the maiden lady, Siobhan Finnegan, is that her name? She was clearly bad, but like how bad? Like how was she bad? And so it was just like really interesting. I felt like there was a lot of like, you know, I couldn't guess anything until it was really revealed. And then I just felt like the writing was really strong, and there was a lot of little clever things that the writing and the direction did. So I definitely am saying bravo to Joy and Sally on their work in this episode. So yeah. What about you, Laura? What do you think?
I think that my mouse fell asleep. So sorry about that, guys. So for me, this episode, I gave it an 8 out of 10 Tardai. And I really, really liked this episode. It was fun. It was sad. It had some action to it, which was good. It always makes a great Doctor Who episode. I really liked King James. I loved Alan Cumming as King James. He was phenomenal. He was a great character. He was also just a really frustrating, but also ridiculous character. And I feel like some of the best Doctor Who characters are like kind of have those common characteristics. When he was talking to Ryan and he called him a Nubian prince, I almost fell off the couch laughing. It was so funny. And Ryan was just, he handled it so well. And when he wanted him to go back with him, and he was just like, oh, I can't be, you know, he's just like, Ryan's just a genuinely good guy. There's not enough Ryans in this world. So I loved that. I also am not a huge fan of this time period in history. I think it's because in school, whenever they taught this, it was always the Crucible. And so it was like, that's what you learned. That's what you read. That's what you watched. That was it. Like you didn't get anything else. Like I feel stupid because I didn't know that there were witch trials in England. And then I was like, well, obviously there were witch trials in England. Duh. So I think it's just one of those things where you just get burnt out on the subject in school. And so you just don't really read into it a whole lot. But I did knock this episode down 2 Tardi, 1 for killing another grandmother, because we didn't need that. All right, we lost Grace in the beginning, and we didn't need to lose. What was her name? Willow or Willa? Do we know? Willa. So Willa's grandmother didn't need to die. She seemed like a really nice lady. And she was even a really nice mud lady too. So, and then my other is one that I'll get more into later, but I also doctored another Tardi because of the really shitty prison that the Moraks were put in. So I just felt like that was just bad. But I do overall commend this episode for making me interested in this time period. So thank you once again, Doctor Who, for teaching me something that my public school education didn't teach me. How about you, Emily?
Okay. So I am the contrarian. I loved the Robin Hood episode, and I did not hate this episode, but I didn't love this episode. And I am maybe an 8, but more like maybe a 7 or like a 7.5 Tardi, because I loved it up until like I'm on board with the witches. I just read, like, devoured the books A Discovery of Witches, and like book 2, spoiler alert, takes place with King James. Okay? So like I was like, "Ooh, this is interesting. I'm cool. I'm on board with this." And I loved it up until I felt like, wait, random ancient aliens that are in a prison cell? Wait a second. Like, I'm cool with there being ancient aliens and they were suddenly trying to figure things out. It just, I hated that it was a prison and some other things. And I was just like, as I was watching it, I was the last one to watch it because of everything else, dishwashers and life that got in the way. And as I was texting Lorena and Laura, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna smack King James. I want to shoot him. What is he doing? And then I was like, okay, no, I cannot be a feminist, and I don't care if people don't like feminist politics right now, because I this is annoying. I just was really annoyed by some of these things. That it just really rubbed me the wrong way, and um, it's this. I was on board with the story and on board with everything else, and then suddenly it just felt like it took a hard left turn for me, and I was like just jarred. So I wanted more for what was Willa's granddaughter's name?
No, Willa was the granddaughter.
Okay.
I don't know what the grandma's name was.
Old Mother Twiston. Like, I loved her character, and Willa, oh, I loved Willa. She was fantastic. And just the pressures of the time, because we know that every one of us would have been, marked a witch for having too many female friends, talking too much, knowing too much, reading, writing, all these other things that would have marked us as witches, and
having moles.
Right, whatever that is.
Existing as a woman.
Yeah. So I know I would not have done well in the late 1500s, early 1600s. And I just, obviously King James was quite the pious and devout man who cobbled together what we have for the King James Bible, but he also wrote demonology to give us what we have, the complete works of giving us what demons and witches and vampires or where were. So I don't know. I was just bugged by this episode. So 7.5 out of 10 Tardi.
I need more. I need to understand this better. So, like, you were bothered did you feel like it was too like inaccurate in that, because you've just been like so deep into Discovery of Witches that you felt like they did King James like they didn't go deep enough with it, or like?
No, he was accurate. It was fine. Something just bugged me. I felt it wasn't, I mean, because he was so inspired by what, demons and witches and all these other things. Like, I mean, he wrote entire books and pamphlets and everything about the exact opposite of Christianity and the Bible and all these other things. Like, this was the stuff he wanted to know. Was so completely fascinated by the occult and everything else like this. So why I was fine with that, that his portrayal, why he couldn't, grasp the alien things like this. And I don't know, there was just certain things that bugged me, and I don't know that I can put my finger on them. I don't know.
Okay. Well, you said it took a hard left. Now, I have some thoughts that I think might contradict your thoughts. Well, I know I do, but those specific turn left thoughts. So I wanted to jump back to that and just see if you meant like it was going along fine and then it just became too over the top sexist or like ridiculous in that way that you were just like, really, we're doing this? Or it was the turn left something else, like a different, that was like, it's a prison. Why?
Well, I think it was more he respected Siobhan Finneran's place as a woman, but not the Doctor's place as a woman. And
well, Siobhan was a landowner, so maybe it was more a classism situation.
Maybe. I think it could be both there. I kind of got the feeling at times that he was kind of condescending towards Becca when he was, going through his witch hunting tools, and he was like, oh, do you have this? And oh, what about this? And it was just kind of like I don't know. I just kind of got the feeling that it was more of like this silly lady is a country bumpkin. And of course she has a witch problem. She doesn't even have the right tools to hunt the witch, like, I don't know. I know I get both sides of this, like where you're coming from.
I saw Becca as like really prostrating herself to him. Is the right word? I always feel like I'm saying some kind of weird sexual word when I say that. But prostate without an R. Okay, so yes, prostrating herself versus the Doctor was just like, no, I'm here and I'm in charge, and like you have an issue. This person is murdering people and you're the king. Like, you need to not do that. Wait, why are you telling me to stop talking? Like, and I think that just I actually felt like this was a like really great statement on modern sexism. And I think just even saying this example is like an example of how the writer Joy like pulled this in and made it part of, just like seamlessly wove this narrative, this statement into the whole episode, where Becca is getting respect, but sort of not, but she's like submitting herself to the king in the way you would as a subject or whatever. But the Doctor won't do that because it's just like not how the Doctor is. And so even just that example where the Doctor is just getting shut down from the beginning, being stripped of her command, because how could she be the Witchfinder general? Like, she's a woman. That's just not possible, for King James's mind. Like, he can believe in Satan, but he can't believe a woman could be a general. So, you know, just like immediately he's stripping her of her title, of her authority. He's demeaning her. And to me, that was like what you would expect for the time period, sure. But like also in this like real way, it's still like, this is still happening now, kind of great. I think my favorite was when the mud people arrived and the doctor is just like, okay, we're going to solve this issue. Let me go through all the ways. Like, I'm starting to set up the plan. You need to be honest with me, Becca, because you're not being honest. And then Becca's like, shit, she's going to find out that I have Satan in me. And like, this is a big problem. So then Becca starts to turn on her to protect herself, which is what, you know, the whole premise of the entire show is. And then as soon as she does that, like as soon as this moment happens, it's just like, why are you taking so much authority? How are you in charge? And immediately everyone, like Willa turns on her. Everyone turns on the doctor. And the doctor just says, like, if I were still a bloke, like I wouldn't have to be wasting time establishing myself with you. And then they're like, clearly you're a witch because you just said that you're, you know, like you're speaking. Like it was basically just like this exact, as soon as she just said, like, why do I have to waste my time establishing myself as an authoritative figure when clearly I'm the only one who knows what the hell is going on? Like that was the moment they all just switched off and were like, how can you possibly have knowledge and not be a witch, right? So it was just like, this is so current. Like it just felt like life, which is depressing. But I just thought the writing from that perspective, like I thought it was so clever, just really cleverly done. And I know you kind of hate the Crucible, but it took that like energy, and the Crucible is more obviously more about McCarthyism than sexism, but that same like old 1600s mentality and brought it into like a modern day social commentary. And I thought it was just so, it felt like the doctor was finally like, if I was a dude, none of this shit would be happening. And we like finally saw her like expressing that because it was finally happening to her, you know, in this time period so blatantly. And it just felt like so just real. I don't know. I thought this was like the strongest episode from I don't even want to use the word feminist, but like from a commentary on social situations for women in like this microaggression, like undercurrent of, sure, we can respect Becca, but only to point out how, you know, mediocre Becca is, you know, like even in this context of their world, they couldn't even like see Becca as an equal, even though she was a landowner. And didn't like that tree. So she's going to chop that shit down, you know, like that's respectable on her own with an axe. That was pretty small.
Right. I don't disagree at all. I agree with all of those points. Those are things I'm okay with. I think it was more like the sudden introduction of alien prisoners. Anyway.
I have one small thing.
Weird for me. It was not the greatest episode for me. At all.
I have a comment here. So it's like an observation. So do you guys think this is the first time in the Doctor's entire long existence that she, in this way, she has ever felt sexism this way, that she's ever been so mistreated based off of something that she just seriously can't help, which is her gender in this case? Like, I can't remember a time in any other episode where she, in this season, where she has been treated so horribly because she's a woman. And also, when, you know, like in any of the male doctors, when they've ever been treated so horribly because they're men. Can you guys think of any time like that?
I'm thinking.
I'm
but,
thinking.
Yeah, I'm like going through. I mean, is there a time where I can't even think of any other time, you know, when the psychic paper doesn't work, or that establishes credentials, or um and I can only go from 9 through now.
Same.
Yeah, I mean, there is a time that the psychic paper doesn't work, and that's in one of the Craig Owen episodes when he says he's like a responsible human being, and then they're like, it just says a bunch of squiggly lines, and he's like, oh, that lie was like too much for the psychic paper to even portray, but that, to me, any kind of prejudice that has been inflicted on the Doctor has been based on actions the Doctor has taken or decisions the Doctor has made. So, like, I think the Time Lords as a whole hate the Doctor, but also love the Doctor because he committed genocide against them. And so, like, there's that weird, and this obviously just modern because there's a ton of Time Lord action happening in the old Who. But this is like, to me, it's been like something inside using brain and heart and putting that out that has garnered reaction, not I just exist and that's what's garnering the reaction. I mean, if the Doctor in this instance hadn't tried to take authority, she probably would have not been as blatantly mistreated or verbally mistreated. They probably wouldn't have tried to dunk her. But, that was obviously she's just being herself, and she's more intelligent than all of the people there. So, yeah, Laura, I can't think of a time where the Doctor being a male has disadvantaged the Doctor from a straight up sexist into that culture he's in's point of view. But they haven't really done any matriarchal, like maybe the most would be actually, and I don't want to say this to be sensitive to you, Laura, but the one where we first meet Donna Noble in her Christmas episode, and there's a insect that has been on Earth since its creation, and now is just trying to like live her life and have her children and feed them. I think that would be a matriarchal society and culture of that creature, but I don't. And she pretty much like hated the Doctor because he was a dude, but also like he was in the way. So that's still an action he was making. Like she was willing to take advantage of Donna and everything. So it's not like because he was a male, that was why. It was because he was trying to kill her, basically. So no, bad example, never mind.
Well, I just think it's really interesting, like you could kind of see it in her face when the psychic, I just dropped something, sorry. When the psychic paper didn't work for King James, and it was like, this clearly says assistant. And you could just see like the look on her face was just like, how dare you, and it is one of those things where it's like, isn't that interesting that you've never come across this situation before, but now you are? Like, is that gonna, I don't think for our Doctor that will change the way that she approaches any situations or does anything differently, because the Doctor is who the Doctor is, and that's never going to change. But I just think that that's just it was a very interesting point to me that like she kind of got set back a little bit on her butt by that whole situation, and it was just interesting. So,
do you think that instead of, because there were so many times, let's go back to Pompeii and obvious the other things, like we've talked about savage or compassion, and the other things where the Doctor was willing to let people die because, or not interfere with the timeline, because that's what had to happen. And yet now she just jumped into the lake or the river to save the person during the witch trial.
I don't know. I feel like it's pretty rare the doctor doesn't actually interfere when push comes to shove. And so I can't even think of a time when that's really truly happened all the way through. Because like anytime it's like a fixed point, it's usually part of the doctor's timeline or the Time Lord's timeline. That isn't changeable. And I think it's almost always for like a large emotional reaction, like the river song murdering the doctor fixed point, or in Pompeii, we know this event has to happen. But then once the doctor learns the truth and is like, oh, tomorrow isn't Volcano Day, but now I have to create it into Volcano Day to save the planet by killing this one city. Like, to me, that's, well, first of all, it wasn't actually a fixed point. It was like it was just like a problem they came into. But the other one with River, like that true fixed point that couldn't be altered, and he couldn't go back in time to save the planet, to save the Gallifrey and all of his family or whatever against the Daleks. I feel like it's for the convenience of plot more than anything, having a fixed point issue. And I don't see any other instance of morality that, like, I wouldn't judge the doctor as compassionate or savage based on not interfering in the past, because I feel like the doctor always interferes to save lives overall, even in Rings of Akatan, which is a future fixed point, but like this thing that's happening, and he's like, wait, this is an issue and we need to fix it. I feel like that's just how the doctor doesn't see time as like past or future. It's like all of time for the doctor is happening at one time. So if it's a fixed point, that's just like, to me, it's just really because they want an emotional reaction in the show, not to like lower the show's energy, but that's really what I feel is the case. There's no true fixed point in reality.
Okay, not a problem. Well, let's talk about our villains / aliens. The Morax. Lorena, you want to?
Yeah, well, we know you hate them. So I think, or you just didn't like they appeared. I didn't mind that they appeared. I liked that. I thought it made it Doctor Who-y to have a random alien show up. I thought as far as aliens go, they were pretty lame, but they were just so like basic. We're here, we're evil, we've been imprisoned, the prison eroded, someone cut into it and opened a hole, we got out, and now we're gonna take over your whole planet. Ha 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 ha. Like it was pretty basic. But at that point in the show, I thought the show was going to be over. And then we like had 15 more minutes of like saga of killing the Morax. And so I was just like, wow, what more can we possibly do? And so there was only a limit to like, they had to be like all out evil, take over the planet. So the doctor could quickly be like, I'm shutting you down. But I did love how like they kind of looked like wood, but then they also had like a metallic element to them. I thought the prosthetics and makeup they used was pretty cool. So I did enjoy that, even though they were a pretty basic evil alien prison race, whatever.
I loved the Morax. I thought they were really creepy. Like when they were looking to fill people, that was super creepy. And when you first see that grandmother coming out and she's like looking like the girl from The Ring, and you're just like, nope. Like that was good and creepy. And y'all know I love some creep. So I also like that this is the second time that I can remember where we've had like a spirit, or not a spirit, alien entity fill people, dead people from Earth. Because we had the gassy people in the Charles Dickens episode. And that was also super cool and very creepy, like the makeup and everything. And I really hope that people cosplay as that group, because that would be amazing. But I think that this episode had several villains. I think that it had the Morax. I think that it had Becca Savage. Savage was the last name, right? I think Savage. Becca was willing to, she killed like her family member because she couldn't help her, and then she didn't want anyone to know. She killed 36 people because she didn't want anyone to know that she messed up. So there's that. And then also I think like the whole King James and that whole mentality of, if you're a woman who speaks out and you know too much about a certain thing, you're clearly a witch and deserve to be drowned or burned or stoned or any of the other horrible things that they did to women back then, and still do to this day. And I just feel like it was one of those things where it's like this episode had multiple villains, and I don't know, maybe that's also why I couldn't give it a solid 10 out of 10, because I need that, like, this is the bad person, this is how we're going to get rid of the bad person, this is our happy ending, and we didn't get that. Okay, we didn't get that.
Lorena, I feel, disagrees with you because I see some gesticulating.
It's so like why it was such a good episode. Like having no one's the clear good guy or bad guy. Like, and that like why the Morax had to be so basic was because of how complicated the humans were. And like ultimately Becca thought Satan was inside of her and was terrified that she was a witch. And that this terrible thing that she hated due to King James being so into it was like happening to her. And, you know, does that make her inherently terrible? Probably not. The fact that she murdered 36 people because she wanted to hide it. Yeah, that does. That makes her terrible. But it was just like, she was actually like in a way trying to heroically keep it inside of her and keep it away from everyone, and that anyone who might understand it or like be inflicted by it, you know, she was literally fighting an alien inside her body. So she had already been filled in a way, and she was trying to like contain it within her, thinking it was Satan. And I just think that it was just like really, I don't know. She was like being possessed and fighting it. And so that in a way that was kind of heroic. So to me, she wasn't truly a villain or a hero. Like she was very aptly named, but also like
savage.
Yeah. Like if anyone's savage, it was her. I don't know. I just can't like hate her because she was so like, she had pure intentions, even though she carried them out very poorly.
See, but I don't see it that way. I don't see her as like heroic intentions. I see it as cowardly. Like she was infected. She's the one who got pissed off at a tree. She's the one who took an axe to it. She's the one who released them. She's the one that caused all this to happen. And instead of being like, my bad, she goes and like, baby arms. Instead of that, she sits there and murders 36 people. And then King James shows up and she's not like, all right, this is getting out of hand. Sorry, guys. Like, I messed up. No, instead, she's just like, oh, my king. And it's just such a cowardly move. Like, I feel like it wasn't heroic, in my opinion. It was self-preservation at its most base form. And in this case, it wasn't her trying to save her people. She's the landowner. She was just, I don't know. She bothered me. What do you think, Emily?
Yeah, that is, I mean, and I can move this into the next section. Like I had separated out villain from alien because I truly would put Becca Savage in the villain column. and separate the aliens. The aliens were literally biding their time in their prison, doing just fine until Becca Savage came along and did her thing because she married up. She got out of her little village and did her thing and decided the tree was obstructing her view on whatever the Pringle Hill or whatever was. Pendle Hill. I couldn't remember. And so that, I will start with that. So the really quickly, the Morax, they remind me, you guys were talking about the Charles Dickens episode. The episode right before that was the Earth. What it was, sorry, The End of the World. And Christopher Eccleston's doctor takes Rose to the future where the Earth explodes. And there were tree people. And I give you air from my lungs. And that's what the Morax reminded me of, was how they carved her face, reminded me of that. And that was the episode right before the Charles Dickens episode. And so we are like throwing it back to our very first, second, and third episode of the Christopher Eccleston Rose era. So I was fine with the Morax. They were fine aliens just biding their time until Becca Savage came along. I get that they were prisoners. Why did they choose Earth to, I don't know. Anyway, so that's my hill. Becca Savage really needed to be reined in a lot sooner than she was. The pride goeth before the fall, and she fell and needs to be reined in. My hill is Becca Savage was the villain, not the Morax, and there you go. That's my hill I'm dying on. So we're moving into that section now. What is your hill, Lara?
My hill that I'm going to die on tonight, which is not Pringle Hill or Pendle Hill, but my hill is the prison in which the Moraxes lived or were like confined. What kind of a prison is it if an axe being thrown around by a noble lady is enough to break them out? Like that is a shitty prison, okay? And I am not like, never mind. I was going to get into my privatized prison speech and soapbox, but we'll walk away from that subject. But I just think that prison was awful. And that's my hill that I'm willing to die on. You have a species that wants to destroy this entire planet. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep them on this planet, and we're going to put them in a hill with literally nothing keeping them in there, so that a lady that could come through with an axe can let them out.
And it responded to like electricity and some other things. So right. How did a basic axe cut it down?
She was just chopping away at that wood, and they just came out in the mud. Also, shout out to Jodie Whittaker for the way that she says mud, because that was really awesome. Mood. I loved every time she said it. It's mood. Cool. I just felt like that prison was shitty, and I wanted to talk to the warden. So it was very moody.
I felt that prison was basically Georgia. It was not the country, but the state. Well, the colony, the penal colony. And it was just like, we're going to put our prisoners in this crappy planet in a tree thing. So once there's like ape life there, they won't think, this is something we should open. Right. I don't know. I think it was billions of years old. It had eroded, and that happens. I mean, weather, time, ice age, like what you're thinking this is a young prison. It wasn't.
Climate change? What?
Yeah, it was real. To me, it was a very environmental commentary. having that tree, once it got chopped down, all evil came out. But that's a whole other soapbox. I don't have a hill. I think this was an excellent episode. I thought it was really clever, very just I don't want to say subtle, but it had this quiet, continued undertone of just everything was just so perfectly done in a commentary way without being blatant. It had this great, really blatant, obvious moments with King James, and then there's just these smaller this undercurrent. I thought it was so brilliantly written. I thought that it was directed, edited very well. I felt so good about it. I want to go watch it now. So no hills. Hire Joy again. Hire Sally again. Bring them back. I'm sure they can do more than witches. So
yeah.
I
mean, they are only women. I don't know about that.
Boo! Don't even bring that sarcastically into this. There's too many non-sarcastic trolls.
I'm kidding.
I know you are, but I'm so tired of noise.
Maybe I need to watch it again. And
if anything,
it was a great episode.
Enjoy Alan Cumming because he
was fantastic
in it.
He was so brilliant. So brilliant in this episode. I think this episode was a really smart episode. Like you said, there was a lot of complex things happening. They weren't trying to smack you in the face with a lot of it. And I thought that was really good. This was a great episode. My things that pissed me off about it, I would say, weren't even things that pissed me off. There were more things that just were I don't know. If you're gonna put an alien species in a hill on a planet, maybe go check on them once every million years or so and make sure that the prison doesn't erode. You know what I mean?
Yeah, actually, that would be my only hill, was that the doctor should have left and gone to the future and been like, how's this tree doing? Still doing good? Still
we're
in place?
Just gonna check on this.
Yeah, it's there now.
Right. There could be a skyscraper on top of this right now. We need to keep track of these things. We need to know where the prisons are.
That's the next episode.
Yes.
Or even, why not travel back in time to when they were placed on that in the hill and be like,
right.
Hey, you need to set a tighter security lock on this.
Right. Well, it's the prison, was it in Florida when one of the hurricanes was coming through and they decided not to evacuate the prisoners? You can't just put living beings, whatever they may be, inside of a box and lock it up and be like, LOL, good luck with your life. You have a responsibility to keep an eye on that kind of a situation. So, but that's getting into Laura's prison soapbox. And I promised I wouldn't do that. So I felt like there could have been a little bit more fleshing out of the story there. Funny.
Fleshing out, mudding out, mooding out.
Mood.
Okay. Well, it is past our time. We appreciate you all for joining us this week on TARDIScuss. Next week, we are in Norwegian fjords. I'm excited. I don't know what Norwegian cocktails could we have. Thoughts? I don't know. You guys are looking at me like I'm crazy. So the episode name is It Takes You Away. We will be back here on Tuesday night, and we will talk to you then. Have a great night, everybody.